Welcome back to the deep dive. You ever look at a car, that perfect mirror finish, and just wonder, how? How do they even do that?
Yeah, or maybe you're in your own garage,
Right.
trying to get results that look professional.
Exactly. Well, today we're hoping to unlock a few of those secrets. We're going to dive deep into automotive coatings.
And we're leaning heavily on the expertise of Josh from Back Corner Studios.
Yeah.
He's got this great educational series on YouTube.
He really does. We've gone through his videos covering clear coats, paint guns, polyester primers, primer sealers, basically the key stuff.
And we want to bring those key insights to you. Think of this as like a quick way to grasp what goes into a really top-notch paint job.
Yeah, our mission today is pretty simple. Give you a clearer picture of these products, these techniques. So whether you're doing a full restoration,
Or maybe just talking to a body shop after a fender bender.
right, or even if you're just fascinated by the process, we want you to walk away knowing enough to ask smart questions or just appreciate the craft more.
Okay, so where should we start? Clear coats.
Let's do it. Untucking clear coats.
All right, so based on Josh's video at his shop up in Stratford, Ontario, they mainly use two. There's the RMC 2000. That's the one they have to bake.
Okay.
And then there's DC21NB. The NB means no bake, air dry.
Ah, okay. Big difference in how they're used, I bet.
Huge.
Eh.
The RMC 2000, the baked one, needs a solid 24 hours to properly cure.
Wow.
But the DC21NB, the no bake, it's ready much faster.
Yeah.
Maybe an hour or so. And you can actually start denibbing it, fixing tiny flaws and polishing it way sooner.
So different applications then.
Definitely. They lean towards the no bake for smaller things like motorcycle parts, maybe inner panels.
Oh, right.
And it's great if you're locking in graphics. But for the big jobs, full restorations where you want maximum durability, it's the RMC 2000.
Makes sense. Now, Josh talks about cost too, right? Because clear coats can vary wildly in price.
Oh, yeah. He mentions seeing them from like maybe $200 up to $2,000 plus. A massive range.
So what makes the cheaper ones? Well, cheaper.
A lot of it comes down to solvents. It's cheaper for manufacturers to add more solvent.
Okay.
But here's the catch. Those solvents just evaporate. When the clear dries or cures, they're gone.
So what you're left with is less actual protective stuff.
Exactly. That's what's called the volume solids. The more solvent they put in, the lower the volume solids percentage is when it's dry.
And those solids are the protective film.
Precisely. So cheaper clears often mean less solid material left behind, which means less protection, especially UV protection.
Oh, UV. That's the killer for paint jobs, isn't it?
It really is. Lack of good UV protection leads to fading, the clear getting hazy or cloudy. Josh calls it dieback, where the shine just dulls over time.
You see that sometimes, that milky or chalky look.
That's often it. Eventually, a low-quality clear coat just breaks down. It fails. And the color underneath, it's vulnerable.
Definitely not what you want after all that work or expense.
No way.
Yeah.
Which leads to some really practical advice from Josh for you listening. If you're getting paintwork done.
Ask questions.
Yes. Ask the shop, whether it's restoration or collision, what specific clear coat they use, but don't stop there.
Okay.
Do a little homework. Josh recommends looking up the technical data sheet, the TDS, for whatever product they mention.
How do you find that?
Usually just a quick Google search. Product name plus TDS. Or you can ask the shop or their paint supplier for it.
And what are you looking for on the TDS?
The key number is volume solids. It'll be listed as a percentage. That tells you exactly how much of that liquid clear coat actually stays on the car as a solid protective layer.
So higher percentage is generally better. More protection lasts longer.
That's the idea. It's a great indicator of quality. Asking about it shows you know what matters for long-term results.
Good tip. Really good tip. A quality clear coat is just foundational for protecting everything underneath.
Absolutely. It's the shield. Okay, so we've covered the top layer. What are the tools? The paint guns.
Right, paint guns. Josh has a whole video just on these, and wow, it's not a one-size-fits-all situation, is it?
Not at all. They have different guns for different materials, different stages. It's quite specialized.
It's like for polyester primer, that really thick stuff.
Yep, they use that after heavy body work. For that, they have a dedicated gun with a big fluid tip, a 2.5 millimeter.
Okay, bigger opening for thicker material. Makes sense.
Exactly. You need higher output. Then for regular primers, they actually have a couple of guns.
More than one. Why?
Because different primers might spray best with slightly different nozzle sizes. He mentions one with a 1.8 millimeter tip that can handle polyester too, and maybe some metal flake primers.
Okay.
But their main workhorse primer gun has a 1.4 millimeter tip. And that matches the recommendation. I think he said 1.4 to 1.6 for the primer they use most often.
Gotcha. What about sealer? That's thinner, right?
Yeah, sealer goes on much thinner, so
Wow.
a smaller tip. They use a 1.2 millimeter. And here's where it gets interesting with spray patterns.
Patterns.
Yeah, it talks about an O pattern versus an I pattern. The O is more oval, maybe slightly heavier droplets. The I is a straighter fan. Finer atomization breaks the paint into smaller particles.
Okay. And for sealer?
Josh actually prefers the O pattern. He feels it gives a more uniform film build for sealer, lays it down nicely.
Interesting detail. Okay. Then base coat, the color.
They have 3 guns for base coat.
Right.
Seems to be partly personal preference, partly the paint itself.
Yeah, 3. Yeah.
Yeah, one's a 1.3 millimeter tip.
Yeah.
He likes that for solid colors, whites, blacks, where good atomization for smoothness is key.
Uh-huh.
Then for really fine metallics, like silvers, he uses a 1.2 millimeter tip with that eye pattern. Finer mist for those fine flakes.
Right. You want those flakes to lay down evenly.
Exactly. And then they just have another 1.3 millimeter that's kind of an all-around base coat gun.
And finally, the clear coat gun, the one for that RMC 2000, maybe.
Yep, that one's critical. They use a 1.3 millimeter tip specifically for the RMC 2000 clear. He says that size gives him the perfect atomization and laydown based on his speed, his distance from the panel. It's very tuned.
It really shows how technique and equipment have to work together.
Totally. He mentions they use SATA guns, has for ages, nearly 2 decades. Trust them for reliability, how they feel.
But what about, the DIY person? Do you need those expensive pro guns?
Josh actually makes a point of saying no,
Yeah.
not necessarily. For home projects, you can often get good results with decent quality guns from, like, a hardware store. It's about understanding the principles.
That's good to hear. So the takeaway on guns is, it's about matching the gun and tip to the material, but also finding what works for you.
Yeah, application needs meet personal preference.
Okay, we mentioned polyester primer. Let's dive into that a bit more.
Okay, polyester primers. Josh's video really breaks down when and why they use these. It's after the heavy bodywork's done, right? After epoxy primer.
That's typically the sequence. They'll spray maybe 2-3 coats of this polyester primer. Seals up all that bodywork underneath.
And the big benefit is it's like sprayable body filler.
Essentially, yes. It builds up a pretty thick layer, he says, 4 to 6 mils, which is like 4 to 6 thousandths of an inch. Significant build.
And that helps avoid having to skim coat large areas with regular filler. That's a huge advantage. It makes it much easier to get large repaired areas flat and smooth for the next step, which is block sanding.
Ah, blocking. And Josh mentioned another benefit, didn't he? Something visual.
Yeah, because it lays down a nice uniform color. It makes it way easier to see any tiny little lows or imperfections that might still be in the bodywork. They just stand out more against that consistent surface.
Smart. Are there different brands?
Oh, yeah. He lists a few. Evercoat is a big one. Mentions their Super Build and Slick Sand products. Also, Clausen's, Speed Hacker, BASF. Several options out there.
Which one does Back Corner prefer?
They tend to use Evercoat. They like how it sprays, the build they get, and importantly, how it sands later on.
And sanding isn't immediate, right? It needs time to cure.
Definitely. He says they let it sit for a good week, maybe even 2 weeks, 7 to 14 days before they start blocking it.
Wow, patience is key.
It really is in body work. They'll start sanding, usually with 120 grit paper on a hard block, then refine it with 220 grit.
And can you put regular filler on top if you find a spot you missed?
Yeah, that's another plus. Once the polyester primer is properly cured, you can apply spot putty or regular filler right over it if needed.
Flexibility. What about the gun again? You mentioned the big tip.
Right, he specifically shows their Satijet 100B gun for this, with that 2.5 millimeter fluid tip. It's designed for thick stuff.
And is 2.5 the only option?
No, he says the typical range for poly primers is somewhere between 1.8 and 2.5 millimeters. Generally, bigger is better for getting enough product flow.
But always check the specific product's TDS sheet.
Always. Got to follow the manufacturer's guidelines. Oh, and one more cool thing about that Evercoat Super Build 4.1.
Yeah.
In some cases, particularly restorations, after you've applied epoxy primer to bare metal, you can sometimes apply this polyester primer directly over the epoxy. Might save you a step, like needing a separate etch primer.
Huh. Streamlines the process a bit.
Could do, yeah. Okay, so that covers the heavy filling primer. What about the very last primer step before color, primer sealers?
Right, primer sealers. Josh's video on these makes it clear. Their main job is just creating a uniform surface right before the base coat, the color.
Exactly. It gives that color coat a consistent foundation. Some might have a bit of an adhesion promoter built in too, especially for plastics maybe.
And you don't build this up thick, do you?
No, absolutely not. Sealer is sprayed thin. You spray it, let it flash off, basically let the solvents evaporate for maybe 10, 20 minutes.
Depends on the product, I guess.
Right. And then you go right into spraying your base coat. It's often the very first thing sprayed once the car is prepped and cleaned in the booth.
And just to be clear, this stuff doesn't fill anything, does it?
Nope. Josh emphasizes that. Zero significant filling power. It might hide super fine sand scratches, like maybe 600 or 800 grit marks, but that's it.
So its real purpose is sealing, making sure the color looks even everywhere.
That's the core job. Sealing repaired panels, new panels, primer spots. Just making sure that the base coat covers uniformly and looks the same shade across the whole car.
Which is super important on a restoration, where you might have different primers or repairs all over.
Critically important. Without sealer, you could get patchiness or weird variations in the final color.
And they come in different shades of gray.
Yeah, light gray, medium dark gray, even white or black sometimes. You pick a shade that's close to your final color, helps the base coat cover faster, uses less material.
Smart, like using gray primer under red paint.
Same idea. But again, it's a surface primer, not a filling primer. Key difference.
Got it. What about the gun setup for sealer? Back to the smaller tip.
Yep, generally smaller. He says typical range is 1.2 to 1.4 millimeter. The exact gun type matters too. HVLP, reduced pressure, etc.
And Josh's preference.
He likes his SATA by 5500 with a 1.2 tip for sealer.
And he mentioned the spray pattern again, right? The O pattern.
He did. Just like he prefers for applying the sealer itself, he likes that slightly heavier droplet from the O pattern. He feels it helps the sealer flow out smoothly, avoids making it too misty, which sometimes doesn't lay down as well with sealers.
It's amazing how those little details add up.
They really do. Okay, so let's maybe recap what we've pulled from Josh's insights here.
That's good. So we started with clear coats, understanding the difference between bake and no bake, and how crucial those volume solids are for durability and UV protection.
Right, and how to check the TDS for that info. Then we got into paint guns, realizing their specialized tools,